Welcome to this episode of Sauna Talk, and today we're with Jake Newport on the sauna bench, literally. He flew from northern England to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I picked him up at the airport and we drove up to the home of Sauna Days, Larsmont Cottages, and we got to sit on the sauna bench together, which I appreciated. He came a long way, and he had a lot of juice in the tank to talk sauna, and so it's my pleasure to bring him to you for this episode. Sure, being by the shores of the cold, clean water of Lake Superior helped matters, and it was a gorgeous night to enjoy some sauna rounds. During this episode, we learned more from Jake about the thermal bathing ecosystem in the UK and globally, his career path change into a multi-pronged sauna business, how he invests and reinvests in the culture and the company. So fully grounded by being the first guest to Sauna Days, this was Wednesday night before the weekend, where we hightailed it up to the facility at Larsmont Cottages to enjoy some solitary, quiet time. And I always like to do that. I'd like to get to a place before others arrive. I don't know, maybe it's my age or temperament, but I'd like to get there early and then maybe peel out and do the Irish goodbye during the hoopla of the weekend. And that's how it turned out for Sauna Days 2024 with my friend Jake Newport at Finnmark. So final notes here. Love for you to hear a little bit more about Mika and Wendy, their Lifetime Achievement Award for their commitment to sauna and founding the British Sauna Society, the explosion of sauna in Great Britain, the huge number getting into the thermal bathing scene, and a little bit about the beautiful saunas on many of the beautiful beaches dotted around the coastline of the UK. It's kind of cool to hear a little bit about the three things that give us the feeling of community. As Jake points out, in Great Britain, there's the church, the pub, and the Village Green Society. And as Britain has become more secular, the church is less of a meaning over there, and people are far more health conscious now. So the importance of the pub is kind of diminished. So there's a void around community and a sense of community and a gap waiting to be filled. And sauna does do that with a huge spectrum of ages of people enjoying sauna in Britain. And we speak about Mikkel Aaland, and Jake name checks Mikkel with his observation about a lost bathing culture that happened in the 70s, and now with a return and an uptick of where we were back then and then some. Also stay tuned where Jake describes the sauna in which we are sitting and how it is a Finnish style sauna in America. He calls out the Western red cedar, the full wooden door, and the native Kuma stove that is ever present in the north of Minnesota. And he describes the heater in great detail as a heater that you buy once. And final words, the hot, then the cold, and the normalization. Lying outside on the cold, wet grass, Jake found himself at Sauna Days in northern Minnesota. And we welcome this episode for you as well. This show is brought to you by Odyssey Resorts and their facility, Larsmont Cottages. If you are looking for peace and tranquility or a launch pad for North Shore, Minnesota adventures, but not your typical hotel, Larsmont Cottages on Lake Superior is the place to celebrate the immense beauty and scale of our planet's greatest lake, Lake Superior. Larsmont Cottages is tucked away in 40 acres of private woods just south of Two Harbors, Minnesota, and this location combines a Northwoods experience with 1,300 feet of beachfront shoreline. To me, one of the golden nuggets of Larsmont Cottages is their wood-burning sauna. The sauna, if you check in, unrehearsed, the folks behind the counter will tell you about the facility, the Ledge Rock Grill, some of the amenities around, the bikes, different games, fire pits, available to all guests. And then they will casually say, and our 24-hour sauna is open for you. And this is wood burning. And the staff there is well trained on the operation of the wood burning sauna stove at Larsmont Cottages. It's my place to go if I'm going to suggest having meetings with out-of-town guests that dig sauna. There's nothing better than checking in to your lodge and then grabbing a towel and heading out to the village sauna nestled right along the shores of Lake Superior. I love it. Larsmont Cottages. Check it out.
This is me actually trying my first Kuma sauna stove. So
well, you came a long way for it.
Yeah.
Does the sound of the steam, is it go the opposite way in Great Britain, or is it going the right direction? Or is that Australia?
Yeah, no, we're going the right direction.
All right on, brother. Yeah. Now, are we going in the right direction by being here right this minute, right now?
So, yeah, we're here essentially the night before Sauna Days, Larsmont Cottages, up on Lake Superior near Duluth.
Yeah. Tell listeners about the last 10 hours for you. Like, you got on, did you get dropped off at the airport?
Yeah, I was dropped off at the airport early this morning and left Newcastle Airport in northeast UK and here I am having a sauna on the side of Lake Superior with world-renowned Glenn Auerbach.
Well, Jake, and we've sauna talked for 2 hours and 40 minutes to get here from Minneapolis St. Paul Airport.
And we're just getting warmed up. Right?
Yeah, literally and figuratively. And we thought we'd bring listeners in to this chat just because I'd like to tee the ball up a little bit where, I got to know Jake. It's kind of, I think, a testament to the world we live now where, you can get to know somebody pretty well before being with them on the bench or in the flesh.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about the world we live in today is, 30 years ago maybe, most of us just thought that we were kind of weirdos living in isolation, but the internet made us find all of our nerdy friends and hey, we found people that we can really relate to.
And oddly enough, I told Jake the origin story of really why we're sitting here right now and what I believe to be one of the best, if not the best, saunas, authentic saunas in a resort in the 50 states here. I love this sauna. I believe in the sauna cognition theory, which means the sauna that means something to you is the best.
Yeah.
But this sauna means a lot to me, and I told Jake the story 5 miles south of where we're sitting right now. It's a sauna that I built for my friend Tom, and every night after work I would, with sawdust in my ears, I would hop in the car and come up here to Larsmont Cottages and have a sauna and then a meal up at the lodge or a beer to pay it forward. And 90 some odd percent I was the only one here on the bench, just like we are now.
Yeah, I mean, to everybody's credit, we're knocking on 10 o'clock at night. So, but fantastically, the sauna's open 24 hours a day for the whole of this event. So, if you fancy sauna 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up with that sauna hankering.
That's right. Yeah, and she said that unscripted in a way.
Yeah.
Right? That's something you'd hear in Finland or Estonia, right?
Yeah, she was like, hey, if you want to use the sauna 3 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be hot.
It's 24/7 for you, and we're like, yeah. So to have Jake here is really quite, getting back to the point where these niche people that have like interests can easily find each other in this day and age. And I was surmising that when I was pounding nails on the sauna 5 miles south from here, you were in the midst of probably doing the exact same with Max in a sauna in Great Britain.
That's right, yeah. So, one of the things that's I've been doing a lot of recently is reflecting on, where we've come from, where we are today, and where we're going as a culture. And I think, this speaking here at Sauna Days is one of a number of chances I get to speak at events over this summer, and it's such a nice time to reflect, because it's allowed me to kind of see how much the ecosystem has changed in a relatively short amount of time, but what that potentially means for the future of sweat bathing culture globally. And the really exciting thing for me is that a lot of the stakeholders that we share this space with say exactly the same thing, that it's something's in the water right now, and thermal bathing is really is really having its day in the sun, and that's only just beginning. So to put that into perspective, when Glenn says he's working on this sauna, like, the Sauna Times was just an idea to Glenn, and Finnmark Sauna, the company that Max, my brother, and I founded, was the same. It was just a concept at that time.
Did you? Yeah, I was going to interject on two things on that, Jake. So you do an amazing job of balancing, call it culture with commerce. Do you struggle with it at all? Like, because to me, you strike me as a guy who's into it for his heart, his soul, his spirit, and supporting the ecosystem, as you referenced. But you have a business behind it, and so there's commerce involved with what you do when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed. How do you balance?
Yeah, I guess for me, you're completely right. I'm in this space because I love sauna, and for me, it's about giving something back, and something that I plan to talk to everybody about on over the next few months at these events is just that that kind of point where I had to change career path from wanting a very outdoor lifestyle to having to review that following a traumatic spinal injury, which is something I still manage to this day. And so, I come up to this space like, yes, I want to build a business. I want it to be the best version that it can be in terms of quality, in terms of support, in terms of, everything that I would want from a sauna company. But for me, it's just as much about reinvesting in that whole ecosystem. So, we sponsor events across the UK to encourage more people to go to sauna, if not hosting our own sauna festivals and events. So, this for us is way less about mega profits and more about investing in the culture. But also we're really big on supporting our staff. So we pay above average wages for the region that we're in, and we're really keen on developing our staff as well. So I always like to make sure that people are aware that Max and we get paid last. Like, everyone else eats from the pot first, and we get paid last, and for us that's fine. This is far more about sharing something and it being viable. Like, I don't think anybody should have any shame about doing a business well and making profit, particularly if they share in the ethos of giving something back and hopefully helping spread that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well said. Over to Sauna Days. I appreciate that. We're sitting on the bench, and as I woke up today, I think I was 70% committed that I was going to haul you up here from the airport. But I had, yesterday at this time, I was thinking, I had our youngest bring our inflatable bed, and I had, we have a little mini Airbnb, I guess you could say, above our sauna in our garage in Minneapolis, and man, I'm just so happy that we hightailed it up here, because this is what I do, man. Like this is where the Thursday night of Sauna Days was born, in the way that it's like that was the early, before everyone shows up,
the early bird.
Early bird. Now we got the super early bird.
Yeah.
But isn't it great to christen the space? Like don't you feel after a sauna round like you're not grounded? You're a pilot, you're flying and all that. But man, after like throwing some water, make some lolu, do you feel grounded yet, or do you think you want to go in Lake Superior?
Oh man, I think for me, sauna is like 50% the hot room and 50% the cold plunge. It's I can't say that that I'll be feeling fully grounded until I've done a few rounds.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think, it's a really nice feeling to be in here as the first, and I really hope that when everybody's hightailed and gone on Monday, we're the last two.
That's good. That'd be a nice like circularity to the whole weekend. So welcome to America. You've been here before, Jake?
That's right. Yeah, mostly New England, the East Coast. So my first time in the Midwest.
Yeah, and do you want to share with listeners a little bit about? You mentioned other speaking engagements. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what your travels are going to bring you?
Get the plugs in. Yeah.
Well, sure.
So once I get back from my trip here in the States. I'm off to the UK Sauna Summit, which is in East London.
And that's which date?
That's on the 20th of May.
That's a Monday.
I'd love to say go and get tickets, but they're already way oversubscribed.
I think they are because they know I'm coming.
Yeah, too right. And hats off to the team that have coordinated that. That's the seminal event in the UK, and it's going to be great. And
can you let us in a little bit behind the curtain? This is a British Sauna Society function, organized event, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And can you share, without getting too crazy, like a few names and how the idea of the event came about, like a couple of the people that are kind of really leading the charge to put you on the spot?
I mean, look, I'm sure I'm going to, miss key members of the team out, but I think hats off to Mikkel Aaland, who's come into this space and really, helped us consolidate the broader culture in the UK through the medium of events like this, and Mika Wendy, who's the founding father essentially of.
He's the godfather, isn't he?
Yeah, of the British Sauna Society.
And I have to let's pause on that. I know you have a couple more names, and we're gonna get to that. But since we're gonna put a little wedge in Mika a little bit for listeners, tell us about your history with Mika and how you would describe him to listen, for listeners. They've been on the podcast, Mika and Wendy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Mika and Wendy are an absolute power couple of the sauna scene in the UK, and again, they do it really for the love of the experience and the culture, and they certainly deserve lifetime achievement awards in this space if and when Sauna Times gets round to making its lifetime achievement awards. For doing such a phenomenal job and sticking with it through the thick and the thin. Yeah. I remember sitting with Mika outside a bar in East London, many years ago now, when the BSS the British Sauna Society was still just a kind of an idea, a thought, a sort of shared camaraderie, but nothing really formalised on paper. Mm-hmm. And to see it be the entity that it is today, with members from across the UK supporting events and being involved in launching new cultural activities. Last year they supported the Aufguss Championships, for example, and getting that established in the UK. Hats off, credit where it's due, that unpaid individuals are giving up their time and energy to make something really, really special. So
fantastic.
And they'll be here, all being well.
Yes, Mika and Wendy are hopefully on a plane within the next 12 hours. We'll see. The over-under is looking pretty good for their arrival on time.
Yeah, I'm not a betting man.
Okay, we're not. But Mika is half Finnish. Is that about right? Is he all Finnish?
I believe Mika's a genuine Finn. Yeah. So
we know on his father's side he must be given his last name. Yeah. So we got that covered. But if you get him talking, he sounds a lot like you from an American standpoint. Does he have a Finnish English accent?
Well, we're very, despite what people might think, we're very welcoming of the international community, and particularly in this fraternity of saunahood, so to speak.
So do you catch him with a Finnish British accent at all, or does he sound pretty British to you?
Mika's accent's quite unique, and I think the UK has such a weird collection of accents that are very distinct regionally. So I've had meetings with natural-born Finns that have a strong Yorkshire accent, for example, and when you hear that, Finnish and Yorkshire together, it's really unusual. So I guess all internationals have a lyrical nature to the way they talk.
Well, this is a bit of a rabbit hole question, but I'm intrigued. Do you think? What do you think is the reason? Is it some ancestor, or how they learned English, or what tape it was, or what teacher they had, or what would you guess?
In terms of accents, it's really old. It goes back many hundreds of years.
No, I'm saying in the case of like the example of the Finn, who's got a Yorkshire accent. Like how do you think?
That'll be teachers and where they live, for example. Just for the listeners' benefit, I've been in this sauna about 10-15 minutes longer than Glenn, so I'm going to have to hit the.
We're going to hit the pause button.
Superior and hit the pause button.
Well, he's doing great with his accent. It's still alive. And you know what? I got to put a call out to these little wimpy wooden handled spoons. Are they big in Great Britain?
I think they're everywhere.
They should be outlawed. We should use them in the fire and just get a big ass spoon, don't you think? So there he goes. The one, the only, the famous Jake Newport. And hey Jake, get your sandals on. I'll go down the lake with you. So then after May 20th, what's in store for Jake?
So we're off to the World Sauna Forum. So
June 6th or so?
June 6th to the 8th in Jyväskylä.
Finland,
yeah. So that should be good fun as well. So
and then anything after that? Australia? You're going to the Australian Open, right?
No,
Australia Sauna Open?
Yeah, that would be good. At the moment, I've got a few trips planned, predominantly out to Finland and Estonia. We have a facility out there that I'll be going out to quite a bit. So, but at the moment, my core speaking engagements take me through till the middle of June. So.
It's a great time of year. I mean, it started getting dark as we were approaching Larsmont Cottages. I think we got on into round one around 9 o'clock, something like that. And in another month, it's not like Finland, but or where you are. Like, what time does it get dark in the north of England where you live?
In the middle of summer.
Like say at its peak at solstice in June.
Probably. I don't know, 10:30, something like that. Yeah.
At our cabin, which is north of here, another hour and a half. We love that. Like it isn't so much when it gets dark. It's like twilight seems to go on. So if you're caught out in the lake or you're at friends, and it's like unlike tonight. For those listening,
blackouts.
Oh my gosh, it was not a graceful cool down for us. Put it that way. I mean, thank God we had sandals.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be bloody on the feet right now.
That's right.
It's hard to navigate down to the shoreline where we're sitting right now, but it's worth it. I mean, I'm gonna really work my way up for navigating fully into the lake instead of the layup pool.
Yeah. So you'll be at the UK Sauna Summit too, speaking.
Yes.
And will you make it to the World Sauna Forum?
I'm like 20%. Because I think I may. Is it every year they're going to be doing this? I know they took last year off.
So it varies between annually and every other year.
Okay. And we don't know yet.
I don't know. It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah. Well, you and I, we were on the bench together last year at the World Sauna Forum, and I have a great photo that I'm going to put as part of the post that's attached to this podcast episode, where we're on the rooftop in Tampere, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. Good memories.
Yeah.
10 months.
Yeah.
Is it? No, a year.
No, it's more than that.
A couple of years ago.
It must be, 2 years ago now we were up there, because they didn't do it last year, so.
That's right.
Cool. And that was, was it on top of is it the Nokia Arena?
On top of the arena.
On the longest day.
Gosh, it stayed twilight. So Jake, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned on the drive up about what's happening and is there a data point about the explosion of sauna in Great Britain? Is there a way that you could kind of summarize the change you've seen since COVID? Or
I mean, there's a huge number of people moving into the space in terms of building saunas, in terms of building their own saunas, and in terms of changing the thermal bathing scene. So we just, the number of sauna trailers and...
Do you call them trolleys?
No.
I thought that was a word over there. Trolley? No. Sauna trolley?
No.
Some country.
I never heard of sauna trolley before.
Well, maybe we should start our own.
Yeah, no.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Yeah, you have a lot of mobile happening.
Yeah, so we have a lot of mobile saunas, and we have a lot of saunas on beaches, because in the UK, obviously, we're spoilt with, we're an island nation, we're spoilt with a lot of beautiful beaches, and a lot of people moving to put beautiful saunas on beautiful beaches. So,
yeah. Is it from a legislative standpoint? We're name checking here. Brighton.
That's right.
Katie.
The beach. Yeah, the Liz at Box Brighton.
Yeah. She, as I remember, she was really a pioneer on the idea of mobile sauna on a beach.
Yeah,
that's down in Brighton.
That's right. So herself and Katie were involved in getting that going, and that's really was pretty much one of the first, or if not the first, on a beach in the UK, and is now probably arguably the most successful and most well established.
Yeah. Did you know by chance if she ran into a lot of hurdles within Brighton to get?
Yeah, undoubtedly, and a lot of different councils. Some councils don't want saunas on the beach. They don't understand what it's about, and others are really pro doing it, but there's just difficulties around how it's licensed, or how somebody gets permission. I think people are always very conscious about giving somebody permission to do something for a long time, and it creating a problem in the broader ecosystem, or a monopoly, or.
So getting a short-term permit was a way to sort of break a barrier.
I believe so. I can't say. With what we do, we love building saunas and helping other people build saunas. But running the mobile saunas is you'll have to save that for when you've got Liz on the podcast.
Absolutely, I'd love to visit with them, and it's great to acknowledge the those that plowed the way to make it easier for the next.
Yeah.
And so to have that level of precedent about what was being done successfully in Brighton probably helped these others follow along.
Absolutely, and there's such a community spirit there. Everybody in that space really is really supportive, really caring, and one of the reasons we love doing what we're doing and continue to do it is that the lion's share of people in this space are really kind, genuine, supportive people, and the ones who aren't, or the ones who scream and shout, they don't stick around very long, and I think that's such a nice thing. So I think in Liz's case, she's so forthcoming with sharing her knowledge and her expertise, and she'll be at the UK Sauna Summit talking about that. And where she's set up, what's really fascinating is that she's set up in Brighton, and then a lot of the people she's worked with, she's gone on to kind of either support or they've gone on to build saunas in the same general area, and users is up. So there's still a net positive to that ecosystem. There's not it's not like somebody set up in competition and now they're fighting over a small pool of users. Actually, it's a really it's a really good to see that businesses can thrive, that are only a few miles down the line, down the beach.
Yeah, it makes me think about, that classic abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And it not only validates itself, spiritually and feeling good, but economically, to your point, it's a good economic move to support others to grow.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the craft brewing industry.
Well, before we go on to that, it's funny you should say that. I was having conversations not too long ago with the guys down there about, essentially putting sauna crawls together. That if you've got, a string of 7 saunas that are along a section of beach that's walkable, then you start at one and then you go to the next and the next and the next. So
so good.
You know, that's just amazing to think that we could be in a country, in a culture that you could have 7 different saunas in 7 different locations overlooking the sea in one day.
And the rising tide lifting all boats.
That's it.
Beautiful job.
Yeah.
Back to jumping around. What's that?
Craft brewing.
Craft brewing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hold craft brewing just for a second. I didn't want to shortchange the summit, the British summit. Is that what we're calling it? Is it
The UK Sauna Summit.
okay? And you were calling out a few names, and I
right.
rudely interrupted you because I'm so into Mika. He's such a, and I know Wendy as well, but both of them, you acknowledge them. Are there other names that come to mind that really lent, not just within British Sauna Society, but with the event particularly that?
It's being held at Nettle 360, which is a rooftop bar in East London, where they've got 4 saunas up there. It's Ben who runs that. Shout out to him for helping host it. There's a range of sponsors, so our companies, Fibmark and Spa Dispatch are sponsors, but also Narvi, the heater manufacturer from Finland, are sponsors. There's a booking system company that have sponsored it as well. I think there's a sponsor that helps mobile saunas get insurance. And then Harvia who are also a heater manufacturer out of Finland, have sponsored the awards there. So, there's a huge amount of support for this, and I think amazing to see that it's not just domestic support, but the big players internationally are sitting up and taking note of what's going on internationally.
Lovely, well spoken. So, is there anything else you want to share? I kind of wanted to take this moment because it's a special one for me. Sitting on the bench with you, you came a long way. We can talk about the craft brewing analogy. I mean, are there a lot of craft brewers in Britain as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you should touch on this, because I think our move as a company, towards focusing on, authenticity and proper, thermal bathing experiences rather than essentially, hot boxes that are just a tick in the box for a pool and spa company. A meaningful thermal experience that's well designed and well thought out. And we've always likened our sort of success to what happened in the craft brewing industry, which is people get tired of that generic, poorly appropriated version of an experience, and they start to go, hang on, there's a better way of doing this, and it starts as a small snowball down a mountain, but it gathers clearly a huge amount of pace. So UK is the same. We have a lot of craft brewing. We also have craft distilling as well. So it's
and the parallels work because on several levels, it's a creative space, and it gives a lot of, like, not just with the product itself, but architecturally and the design and the vibe created, and the idea of gathering, like, community and people gathering, which is almost like a slingshot after COVID. I mean, there's a lot of that void. And
I think a lot of people, there's a few things to unpack there. In the UK in particular, we used to have probably 3 things that gave people a sense of community, generally speaking, in the broader sense of the country.
Can I guess?
You can guess. Go for it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
Am I doing okay?
Things. Yeah.
I'm not just okay.
Go for it, please.
Restaurant,
no.
church.
Yeah, the church is one.
The pub.
The pub is the other, and the third one is what you'll have heard in lyrics referred to as the Village Green Preservation Society. So, little village community groups and stuff like that. So it might be the WI or things like that. Nice. And a lot of those things. So if you look at those community groups, or you look at the UK is very much a secular nation now. We obviously have the Anglican Church, but most people polled these days in the UK would consider themselves agnostic or non-religious, and so church as a community binder is gone, And then a lot of people these days are far more health conscious. So, in my parents' generation, people might go to the pub for beers at lunch during a work week.
Yes, and get passive smoke.
Yeah.
I was there when it was legal to smoke in pubs.
So,
so
you might go for a few beers at lunchtime, you might go for a few beers in the evening. And, I think nowadays people are far more health conscious, and it's not unusual for young people not to drink, or I generally speaking will say, look, I won't drink on a school night, so to speak, because they understand the impact that it has on their ability to work effectively. But that means that the pub is also then gone. So there's this kind of void around community and sense of community. And whilst, yes, you've got those internet communities, which we touched on at the start, you've got essentially a gap which is waiting to be filled.
Yeah. With young people specifically that don't want to hitch their wagon to the old community gathering places.
Yeah, but actually a lot of these places you do see a very, it's true there are a lot of young people in this space, but you do see a huge spectrum. And, I think the UK and the States in particular, we've almost got a lost bathing culture. And we had on our podcast, on the Sauna Twins podcast, we had the fantastic Mikkel Aaland, who is a huge champion for sweat bathing cultures around the world. And he said something that really stuck with me, which was that actually in the 70s there was this burgeoning sweat bathing culture all across the Western world, and then the AIDS epidemic hit. And nobody really knew where that was coming from. Of course, there were gay saunas, and people were kind of putting 2 and 5 together and getting 82, but it essentially killed the sweat bathing culture overnight. Whereas now we're far more aware of pathology, we're far more aware of how diseases are transmitted, and also the health benefits of thermal bathing. That actually it's his exact words were, it now feels like we were back to where we were in the 70s, like on this amazing upward trajectory.
Yeah, well said.
We lost all this time because
we did. Hey, it reminds me of psychedelics. I'm full of analogies tonight. But yeah, you had that whole pushback with the CIA and there was movement toward the medicinal value of psychedelics and stuff like that. And man, it really got squelched. But I'd say the trajectory of that is
the war on drugs, as they call it.
Yeah, great band too, by the way.
Yeah.
You know the band?
Yeah, so the war on drugs and the great band. Whereas I think now people are taking that more open-minded approach to treatment of mental health issues, for example, with carefully dosed exposure to certain narcotics and psychedelics, and that's it. Sometimes the fear of something can become the problem itself. And I think we all see that. We all see that in the sweat bathing community as well. I think when you meet people who have no experience in this space, the things that they ask about in sort of maybe fear and curiosity might be like, is it safe? Is it seedy? Is it clean? Am I going to get hurt? Is it? And actually, it's none of those things, and it creates a beautifully self-regulatory industry, and very happy to kind of. Everybody wants to protect it, so nobody's out here doing crazy dumb stuff, and the ones who are very quickly get shown where the door is. And
that could be us, because we're going out in the pitch dark and navigating our way down the rocks into Lake Superior. So we hope we make it back. And Jake, I want to set an intention when we come back here that I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. We can do that in the cool down room.
Yeah.
And anything you want to bring up.
Okay.
You think about that as we're navigating the rocks.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to actually take
the water bucket?
I'm going to take the water bucket, yeah.
We've got a shit ton of water there.
Yeah.
So I had you and Max on the podcast very early on. Or was I on your pod? How'd that work?
You haven't been on our podcast yet. That's coming soon.
I had you on mine?
That's right.
Okay, cool. That's coming soon. I'm looking forward to that. And I remember last time around, Max had made some tea, and then I made some tea, and we were all kind of one with that. And I do have a few rapid fire questions that get us all in the sauna spirit. And mobile sauna. We talked about that. If you could bring one anywhere in the world, like what is the first place that comes to mind?
You know, I think that's a tough one. There's so many great places.
Yeah, and you've traveled to many places.
Yeah,
too.
I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I guess there's so many beautiful wild swimming spots in the UK.
Yeah.
And in the UK it's difficult to build new stuff next to lakes and rivers. So there's still plenty of amazing spots to explore in the UK, and because a lot of English land is privately owned, it is very difficult to build a sauna in a place if somebody owns that land.
But you're mobile.
But if you're mobile,
get permission.
if you can get the permission, you can get in there.
Where's a spot that comes to mind?
Well, yeah. So Max and I, we spent our formative years in the northwest of England and close to the Lake District. So the English Lake District just has these beautiful lakes, and it's like going back in time, like 70, 80 years almost in some of the parts. So there's these beautiful lakes, and in certain spots very quiet as well. And if you could just hitch up there, and really, really beautiful.
Are there resorts and camping that happen in the Lake region, Lake District?
Yeah, there is, and people go there for camping and swimming, canoeing, mountaineering. Yeah. And I've tried to encourage sauna trailers there, but because they're all privately owned, right. Or a lot of them are, and a lot of the land around them, are in the hands of private landowners who don't want people on there.
Right.
It is tough to try and get a trailer on there.
So that's got to be like multi-generational properties with a lot of shoreline.
Yeah, and then some of the bigger lakes have, like celebrities and high net worth and ultra high net worth people own them, or even hotels. So I think Lake Windermere, famously, I think people like Elton John and Steve Coogan have land on the shores there. So if either of them listen to the podcast, then hit me up. I'd love to put the sauna trailer in your garden.
That would be fantastic. Yes, and we'll just open it for the public one day a month.
That's it. I'm sure Elton will be up for that.
Yeah. Right on, man. Right on. What do you think is most misunderstood about sauna? I mean, I remember this question last time when you were on the show, and gosh, a lot has changed.
It has, and I think a lot of people are waking up to it. But I'm also always conscious that a lot of us here, we're a close-knit community, and we're really deep down the rabbit hole. And when you're this far deep down, sometimes you forget what it looks like from the very top of the hole. And I think that's the thing I always try and remind myself of, is that like there is millions and millions of people who they're not even at the top of the rabbit hole. They don't even know the hole really exists.
Yes.
So, I think from a misunderstanding perspective, I think a lot of those old tropes and kind of fears and phobias that we've kind of dispelled over the years, and a lot of people have put behind us, I think they still exist in some minds, and I think that that's certainly changing as we get more.
What's an example of a topic that the old tropes maybe are over talking about or overemphasizing in your view?
I think there's always been this idea of saunas being a seedy thing from like brothel saunas or gay saunas that kind of perpetuated this idea, and we talked about the AIDS pandemic before, and I think there are people who, they kind of have that fear of going to a space where they are, they undress in front of a load of people, and that there could be something, uncomfortable about that. And I think for me, like, most people will agree, I kind of don't, I don't have any shame, and but I think that there's plenty of people out there where that's actually a terrifying idea for them. But the reality is that as soon as you get in the hot room with a load of just the nicest people that you could meet, all of whom are just there to relax and unwind, everybody with very different bodies, and nobody looks like an Instagram model. And I think actually suddenly it just does wonders for your own personal self-body image, your own mental well-being. And it's like, you know, just the other side of fear is growth, right? And so people's fear of getting into that hot room and being around other people wearing, you know, less clothes and what have you, that fear, if you conquer that fear, the growth that comes with it is just being like, wow, I'm actually super comfortable in my own self, in my own body, and I'm not afraid to be in those spaces, and that they aren't seedy, and actually there's this whole amazing community the other side of it.
Yeah, well said. I at the risk of getting we've done a nice job of not talking about sauna building during this podcast.
But save that for our podcast.
Absolutely, but I was going to talk about the virtues of dimmers and the lighting, and I love that. I love the idea of being able to create a vibe, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. The 612 Sauna Society, built in 2016. Vanessa was telling me just the other day about the dimmer, like she makes a conscious effort to keep the lighting at about the same as the light outside.
Okay.
So when you're out, you're jumping in the lake, because 612's got some awesome deployments by lakes now, and I mean that's another whole story about like a tipping point of acceptability and the getting the permits and all that jazz. But anyway, what a cool thing! Like, so at night, the hot room's very, very dim. Yeah. So your eyes are just all one.
That's great.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess I like to kind of emulate that sort of dim firelight, you know, that comes with, you know, Max and my family home. We have a wood burning sauna, and when we built it, we set up these lights, but then we never wired them in.
Yeah.
And so
Same.
we always just use so there's lights there, but they don't work. so we always just use the light that comes from the stove, and there's something magical about that. You know, it's just enough light to see what you're doing. It's like, you know, it's a yellow light. It's not like a bluey bright light, and a really natural light. And I find that, you know, that's really, really relaxing.
Yeah.
And then similarly, you know, we're here in Larsemont, and it's got lights inside. And the first thing Glenn does when we come in is he switches off the lights, and I'm like, okay, cool. This isn't fun. But actually, it's it's really relaxing.
How would you describe this sauna? You've been to saunas like all over few continents, a couple continents, countries.
I would say it's certainly closer to the Finnish sauna design than a lot of American saunas that I've seen, which is great. You know, you can see the echoes of Finnish culture from you know, the sort of genetic Finns that moved to the Great Lakes area. But there's a nice rustic traditional vibe to it, but it's still, you know, it's still got that vibe of American sauna, and you know, whether that's the western red cedar of the door, the wooden door that we have here, and that it's a pretty much full wooden door with a small glass window, no ball catch. It works just on a
the spring
weighted hinges.
Yeah, the weighted hinges. Yeah. So this is somewhat unique compared to Great Britain.
A lot of people in the UK now, they have glass doors.
Yeah,
so
full glass.
The full glass door is much more common. Yeah. And then, you know, the smell in here as well. So we've thrown a bit of water around, and wet cedar and sauna has quite a unique smell as well. But the bench layout, you know, we've got a kind of upper and lower L-shaped bench around a wood-burning sauna heater. I mean, it's something that any Finn would be proud to sit in and use. And then a lot of thermal mass behind the heater with a stone-built wall on two sides around the heater. And then this rather remarkable, and the first time I'm seeing one in the flesh, this Kuma stove from Lampa Manufacturing, which is just down the road from where we're based, which is a magical thing to come and experience. And my first thoughts of looking at this heater is like, it's built like a tank. Like it looks like, you know, without sounding unfair, like it looks like somebody took pieces out of an old Soviet tank, right? We've got like a hatch here. The door of the thing is we're talking. How many? Let's have a look at this.
Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah. So the thickness of the steel that I'm looking at on this door is like there's 20 mil. I would say there's like an inch thick steel there, and then around the firebox too. I mean,
you see the fire brick.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of that is raising the core temperature in the firebox for gasification.
Yeah.
So you have all of this like heat that stays in the firebox.
Versus, And then we've got below, instead of a traditional ash pan, we've got like two little access hatches beneath it again, built like, this is a heater that you buy once, right? Yeah. This is, and I don't imagine you need to change over spare parts that often either. It's almost like a range cooker that you would find, in a Victorian England household, right?
Yeah.
Big cast iron.
It's interesting you bring that up, because in my time in England, you guys build stuff like this, stout, like your road signs are 1/4-inch steel. I mean,
not anymore.
Well, not anymore. But when I lived in England in the 80s, it's like, and then the phone boxes. We drove past an imported phone box. I mean, like solid, thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't make them like that anymore
Interesting.
either.
So
we don't make phone boxes at all anymore.
Yeah,
so
right
has
on.
mobile phones.
Yeah.
But there was a while where they were just glass, like cabinets. So,
they've all cheapened out.
Yeah, we cheapened out for sure.
Yeah.
So, how much does a stove like this weigh without the stones?
It's serious ass. I'll tell you this. One guy can't do it.
Must be half a ton.
I would say I should know
like
this.
300-400 kilos.
Yeah. Well, I'd say
What's
without
that in
rocks,
old
maybe
money?
350 pounds. So
okay. So
it's
that's
not-
a few hundred kilos.
yeah,
That's a couple. A couple of us is.
yeah. The fire brick I know is 60 pounds. For some reason I remembered that, but. Yeah, and there'll be a few more Kumas because right up the road here, and what's really cool, you talk about the craft builders, we should call them, and I know you have this in Britain, and it'll be really fun. I would guess that after this weekend, when you get to know some of these craft builders, you're going to be able to line up a British equivalent. Like Ben reminds me of Hector or whatever, because already there's some interesting parallels. Like you talk about. Liz and Katie down at Brighton. Yeah, they remind me a lot of the 612 Sauna Society. 2016 pioneers, mobile, uphill battles with permissions, but great integrity and long life of dedication. So it'll be really fun one day, and I know
we have to connect all of these people. The more that we share, the more that we learn together. So I'm excited to see what this weekend brings.
Right on, brother. Last question.
Go on.
You good? You cool?
Hit
the hot. Are you happy?
Yeah.
You really don't like talking too much, do you?
No, it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm quite
we are
shy.
dangerous. I mean, shit, man. The night is young, and literally from the moment I picked you up at the curve of the Minneapolis airport, it's been on. But in fairness, I would say 80% sauna talk, and then some other things dribbled in. And then we come back to sauna.
Yeah, everything's had a sauna spin on it.
It has.
Go on, what's your last question then?
You wake up in the morning and it's a sauna day.
Yeah.
Okay, from that moment to the moment you go to bed at night and tuck yourself in. If you had to distill, generally speaking, what is a favorite moment through the whole day? Maybe you're talking about the wood burning thing, lighting the stove, getting ready for round one, first lolu, first cold plunge, all of that noise.
For me, just it's the normalizing phase, right? So like you go to sauna and you put your body under stress. You go to cold and you kind of put your body under relief, then stress. And actually, it's when you dry yourself off and lie down somewhere. And just before we jumped on this last little bit of the podcast, I was lying outside of the sauna here, just on the grass. And for me, that's the you feel complete at ease, really relaxed. And that's the best bit.
Mm-hmm. And does it always happen as you're in the cool down phase for you?
Yeah, I would say I mean, It's the recalibration.
Yeah.
So it's the hot, then the cold, and then I call it normalization. It's just like getting back to the bases. Yeah.
Now, you've traveled like a madman, right?
Yeah.
So would you say your normalization factor on this sauna particularly is exceptionally high, given what you've been through today?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think, lying outside this evening is just, it's just nice to relax and recalibrate. I would say the general feeling is always the same. But I think after a long trip, it's good to just unwind, relax. And I can't say it was a particularly stressful journey, but it was a long one. So,
It's a long one.
Yeah.
Welcome to America,
Thank
Jake.
you. It's good to be here.
Welcome to Sauna Days.
Yeah.
Surreal.
Excited. Thank you.